Today we're going to discuss citizenship in the digital age. What is citizenship in today's digital world? Well, Mike Ribble describes digital citizenship as the norms of appropriate responsible technology use, and he lays out 9 elements that we're going to discuss today. We will begin with digital access because without access, most of the other elements are moot. Over 286 million internet users are in the United States today. This is a remarkable number, and it talks about how ubiquitous technology is today and how important it is to being a citizen in the world. Online use increases, however, with education and income, so we have to be extra vigilant about making sure that we do not create a digital divide and we provide appropriate technology for all of our citizens. Digital etiquette is also an ever-changing element inside of our digital citizenship. 88% of students are on Snapchat and Instagram, while 66% say they use Facebook daily. We need to make sure that we're teaching our students how to use these social media platforms for their benefit, because as we see, and this is the reason we need digital law, sometimes they don't always use it for their benefit, they use it for harm. In many states, including Texas with Menendez's SB 172, states are legislating cyberbullying and making cyberbullying a crime that schools have to be aware of and their responsibilities thereof. Another huge element of digital citizenship is understanding digital commerce. 80% of Americans with internet access have made an online purchase in the last month. We need to make sure our students are not only aware of how to safely make these transactions, but also how to use this digital commerce to create their own businesses and do their own entrepreneurial activities. They also need to understand their digital rights and responsibilities. They need to understand things like net neutrality and why net neutrality is important to them in keeping an open internet that is not throttled or allowed to have any biases that are occurring with any kind of blocking or internet throttling. They also need to understand digital security. This is a vitally important role as they go forth in their lives, because they live in this internet-enabled world all the time, yet they have to be aware that 15.4 million people were affected by identity theft last year, resulting in over $16 billion of lost revenue due to fraud. This is a very real scare that we are all living in, and we need to make sure our students are protected in the best way they can be. Along those lines, we also need to look after their digital health and welfare and teach them about how to be mindful of their internet use, as the average American spends the majority of their waking day looking at a screen. That doesn't mean that screen time is always bad. We need to understand the difference between creative screen time and consuming screen time, and make sure that our students are doing things that are creative within their days. And this comes down to digital literacy. And digital literacy is one of the important ones for me and for our students, because we need to develop digitally literate students. And that begins in the lower grades, whether it's teaching youngsters how to do Scratch or how to program via BBots, as you can see with this student. They worked collaboratively to develop this program, and then they watched their robot actually move along its maze, and it's just amazing to watch how excited they get. At one point, their Bebot will do circles, and they'll have to then reiterate their process. This then moves on to our older kids, where they not only need to be utilizing computers, but they need to be constructing computers, like these middle schoolers here who are building their own computers from the ground up. And they need to understand how they can 3D model, not only through things like Tinkercad in the top right, but also through virtual reality. How can they manipulate their world in a digital environment and through virtual reality, which in more and more is becoming uh, an avenue for immersive experiences. Here on the left, you can actually see Captain Mark Kelly, the astronaut, doing a virtual reality tour with our students of the International Space Station. In the top right, you see how we can use these 3D models to construct things to help others. This is a robotic arm that we 3D printed for a young man in Honduras to help out, and we're there with a American hero, one of the wounded warriors, who helped us with this project. In the bottom, not only are we using 3D printers, but we're also teaching kids how to build their own. Our engineering kids, programming and engineering kids, started with a box at the beginning of the school year of parts and were asked to build their own computer. So they had to go on and watch YouTube and figure out their own ways to not only build their own 3D printers, but make them better through printing their own parts that would help to increase its efficiency. Then we can go all the way through laser cutting and 3D printing in different ways, and allowing students to prove that their ability through a badge system where they make their own badges and then utilize their knowledge of things such as the laser cutter, 3D printer, and vinyl cutter to construct their own problem solving. Here, students constructed their own land sailor, which then they're testing. So they had a problem, they iterated a solution, and they constructed real ways that they could actually produce problem solving. But all of this doesn't matter. All these skills and all this literacy that we're developing doesn't matter if our students can't communicate well themselves through digital means. Whether it's understanding the elements of a green screen and having students do their own morning announcements with a teleprompter, as you can see on the right, or whether going back in time and interviewing imaginary literary figures from things they read. This builds digital literacy and them understanding what they see is not always what was actually there. And then it moves all the way up to being interviewed. How do they stand in front of the camera when local news channels come in to cover things we're doing on campus? Or in the top right, the left-hand set of students is our broadcast students actually doing an interview, while on the right is the news station doing an interview. So we're teaching authentic skills and then publishing those, as you can see in the bottom right, to a national high school network where we're getting views and feedback from those around the world. But we also need to understand that digital communication happens in things like blogging. Not everybody's going to need to write a 5-paragraph paper all the time. Oftentimes they're going to need to understand how to have eye-catching graphics and information in their blog form or social media form, as you can see on the right here, with students utilizing Twitter to advertise a business they made from scratch. So how do we become citizens in the digital age? Looking at this platform of information, Mike Ribble gives us a good starting point with these 9 elements. But we need to encourage our kids to not only be consumers in this world, but be creators and to be proactive in building their digital footprint, not just worry about what not to put on there. Thank you.